Now, seeds of resistance are sprouting through the women protesters in Afghanistan, chanting slogans against Taliban and its neighbor Pakistan. Women are vehemently demanding their basic rights and female representation in the government formation after Taliban took control of Afghanistan. The visuals on your screens show how a group of female protesters in Kabul's Dasht-e-Barchi neighborhood took to the streets, holding placards and sloganeering against the Taliban regime. The protest comes after Taliban announced an all-male interim government for Afghanistan, thus eliminating women's representation and political participation in the new formed government.
محترم الحاج ملا محمد حسن اخوان سرپرست ریاست الوزراء، محترم ملا عبدالغنی برادر معاون ریاست الوزراء، محترم مولوی محمد یعقوب مجاهد سرپرست وزارت الدفاع، محترم الحاج ملا سراج الدین حقانی سرپرست وزارت داخله، محترم مولوی امیر خان متقی سرپرست وزارت خارجه.
However, women are having none of that. Visuals on your screen show how Taliban fighters are trying to stop these brave women. But determined to battle for their rights, they continued marching despite facing reprisal. Protests by Afghan women against Taliban restrictions that began in Herat has spread to Kabul and Mazar-e-Sharif. It was only yesterday that scores of women chanted anti-Pakistan slogans, further voicing their support for the resistance against Taliban in the Panjshir province.
We are protesting because we don't want a dictatorial government. We don't want ISI's government. They're interfering in our country's domestic war. We are protesting to support the women, and we came here to support the National Resistance Front.
With many raising their voice against the blatant discrimination and seclusion of women from the government formation.
زنان ما چرا در موضوع سیاسی نیست؟ وقتی که اینا مذاکره دارن میگه رایزنی داریم در روی حکومت آینده که چطور تشکیل شود، چرا در رایزنی هایشون یک زن حضور نداره؟ چرا نمیخواد یک زن افغان به نماینده همه زنان افغان برو در رایزنی هایشان و در مذاکراتشان اشتراک کنه؟
Now, with women's freedom sharply curtailed in Taliban 2.0, a massive question mark hangs over the fate of Afghan women and their rights. And joining us for more on this is Linda Tom, Head of Public Information, United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Thank you so much for joining us at this hour. The recent events have worsened the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan. Even prior to the Taliban takeover, some 18.4 million people were in need of assistance. Could you just take us through some of the key humanitarian issues here?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me. Here in Afghanistan, the people have faced enormous challenges. They've had 40 years of conflict, recurrent natural disasters, and now facing a severe drought. There is chronic poverty, and we have a looming economic crisis. Half the population are in need of humanitarian assistance, and the majority are women and children.
Right, Linda. Also, what are some of the major obstacles in terms of providing assistance to those in Afghanistan?
We have many obstacles. One of the first obstacles is that we are running out of funding. We aimed to meet the needs of 16 million people in need. That's an enormous amount of people. And we require $1.3 billion to do so, but we've only received 40% of that funding. So we're really calling on our international donors to not forget the people of Afghanistan and continue to fund the humanitarian response in Afghanistan. Other issues that we face are issues of access and as I'm sure your viewers and Afghanistan has faced quite a bit of conflict, and we weren't able to access people in need, whether that be to assess and see what their needs are, but also to respond. We call on all parties to continue to give us access to people in need so that we can provide this life-saving humanitarian assistance.
Right. Also, given the current circumstances and also taking cognizance of all the issues that lie ahead, how do you see the UN being able to continue their humanitarian work in Afghanistan? What sort of a mechanism are we looking at right now?
Well, myself and other humanitarians, we are here in Afghanistan, and actually the majority of the teams responding to people in need, the majority of humanitarians in Afghanistan are Afghans themselves, and humanitarian assistance is continuing in Afghanistan. Just this week, 2 days ago, for example, about 50 metric tons of medicine essential in order to keep health services going landed by plane in Mazar al-Sharif. So we are continuing to deliver humanitarian assistance wherever we have access. And I would also like to point out that despite a lot of challenges this year, in the first half of this year, we reached 8 million people in need.
All right. Now, just for more clarity on this, have you been in talks with the Taliban on these issues since the takeover of Afghanistan?
Yes, we have. So as humanitarians, we have been speaking to the Taliban for years. Of course, the current situation has changed, and they are now the de facto authorities. You may have seen that the emergency relief coordinator, Martin Griffiths, recently came to Afghanistan in order to discuss with the Taliban, and commitments were made for that they would support our operations and also our principles and rights. But we need to see those commitments translated into action.
Absolutely. All right, Linda, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.